There have been a lot of new changes in the iPhone this year, and not just because of the 17, but also a complete new redesign in iOS 26. So I'm both going to go through all of the essential apps that I use all the time for our photo and video work, but also the hidden settings that you need to know about and you should probably change right away. Let's start briefly with the exterior of the phone. As soon as I saw the orange, I knew it was what I wanted. I think it's a beautiful color. Now let's flip this over and get to the fun part. Now you can just tap one button to turn any photo in your library into a spatial photo. And it's not that spatial photos will revolutionize photography, but they are very fun to look at. The novelty has not worn off for me yet. They turn fully immersively 3D, and that effect of having the clock behind the subject is so much more amplified now. It even goes behind other subjects in the scene, depending on the exact depth. And also we now have this resizing clock where the font dynamically can be taller. This clock specifically is part of my favorite design about the new liquid glass in iOS 26. And the way I use this is very simple. I actually don't do anything else to my home screen, don't customize these. You kind of want the defaults. And also find it helpful to have a travel wallpaper that includes the time in our home time zone, and then also any upcoming flights using the Flighty app. And if you want to change any of these, you just tap them and all your widgets are down here. And with that, let's slowly appreciate swiping into the home screen. You can really see the liquid glass at work here. And there we go. Let's start with the home screen, the most important apps, and then we'll get to the settings. The dock along the bottom is boring, so let's ignore it. Bottom right is the most important app, whatever it is you launch all the time. For me, that's got to be the camera app, like the default camera app. There are third-party ones I'm going to talk about, but most of the time, I want to be able to shoot photo and video within the same app, and we have the most flexibility here. This is also redesigned, which I've got to make a whole tutorial on what's changed, how to use it, but they've kind of moved around where some of the settings are. It's pretty easy to navigate. I find it's actually a little bit easier because down at the bottom, they've hidden a lot of the other options you may not use as often, so all you actually see is photo and video when you get started. And the reason that the bottom right is the priority is the way that you hold your phone. I mean, maybe you're left-handed. I usually am holding with my right. And it's pretty simple. This is the easiest app to tap. So as I move further away, they become less important, and that's why I have these widgets up at the top that are larger. So spreading out from the bottom right, we have some other important apps: Photos, Notes, which I organize virtually everything in Notes. It's my most common writing app. And then Google Maps. Above that, Apple Music is my music app of choice, and it's not so much that it's better than Spotify, but it's included in our Apple Premium bundle. So we have so much on iCloud that we need all the storage we can handle. And so this is bundled into the Apple One plan, so then I don't want to pay extra for Spotify. And quick recommendation for anybody using Apple Music, especially if you're my age and Canadian, George Strombolopoulos has a great radio show that has everything I want to listen to every week. And then for my podcast listening, I'm still using Overcast. They had some growing pains recently, but the new updates for iOS 26 have really brought everything in line. Let's just breeze through the next few. They're a little basic. YouTube Studio, YouTube, social media for a whole row. And then I've got this folder of essential photo and video apps and also just interesting experimental ones. We'll get into those in a second. This next app has been one of the biggest additions to my lifestyle in the last few years. Started working out about 1.5 years ago, and this is Heavy. It's how I track all my workouts, and it's just completely essential to how I do things. If you're into lifting weights, you know how important progressive overload is, so you are able to clearly track it, see your progress over time. Honestly, sometimes just looking at the chart feels like the only way I know I'm making any progress because it can just be so slow, but I've really enjoyed this app. By the way, there's links to everything in the description below, and if you're on Heavy, come follow me. I'm at Stalman over there. And then Dropbox and settings. Up here in the top right, ChatGPT got promoted this year to a widget. This is a little new for me. I gave it a lot more space so you can click directly into either typing a prompt, or you can submit a photo prompt, or just jump right into a voice chat. And I noticed something when I released my recent iPhone review. I've never ended up talking about Apple Intelligence at all. I didn't talk about it in my 16 review or the 17 review. And that's because I just don't find it that important or interesting. It does things, it can be helpful, but it's just not a key feature about the phone. I want my iPhone to be the best platform for AI in general. When I look at what Google is doing, putting Gemini integrated so deeply into the Pixel, I love that. The integration is a big deal, but I'm not going to change to Android for something like that unless AI gets 10 times better overnight. We're not there yet. But as long as Apple eventually reaches that kind of integration, they don't need to be building the model. I'm happy to just choose from my favorite, which could be Claude, it could be OpenAI, it could be Gemini. I just want to be running it on iOS because I much prefer iOS. Anyway, that's a much bigger conversation. In the top left, we've got Widgetsmith displaying the date. Very basic, but I like to have it up there, big and bold. And after looking at it, you might notice a few things that could be different from how yours is set up. So if I tap and hold, there's an edit button in the top left. And up here, I can change a lot of things actually, but all we're gonna change is the customize button. And this is where you have access to either having brighter full color icons, dark icons, which is what I generally prefer. Or if you wanna go full liquid glass, there's also clear. I think this is just unusable minimalism. It's much more helpful to spot colors and know what the app is. So, if you want to really play around with some of these looks, go for it, but I'm not going to encourage it. And then I'm also using the larger icon preference, which gets rid of the names under the apps. I just kind of like the bigger touch targets, and I think it looks a little cleaner. For a long time, my calendar took up the whole top, which was fantastical, but I found I just didn't navigate the calendar there. Like, all I need to know is the date, and I'm going to go into my calendar if I'm going to schedule something. And that is my only app screen. If I swipe to the side, I've got my whole app library. When I want to launch an app that doesn't have an icon here, I'm going to either swipe down in the middle of the screen, or I can tap search at the bottom. Now, I wouldn't necessarily call myself clumsy, but I will say that when I tried to go a few weeks without any case on my iPhone 16 Pro, it got a little more scuffed up than I'd like. So I do not plan to go without a case. So the moment this phone leaves my studio, it will be going straight into an extremely protective ghost case from dbrand. And I've got to zoom in to show you what I think is going to be one of the smartest features on here. So that ridge around the outside is actually completely covered. Like, it's not just open here. Everything is elevated. So even your lenses, there is a little bit of separation so that when you put your phone down, they're slightly separated. I think that's actually a lot of the reason that people's photos get worse as a phone gets older. It's just tiny little abrasions on their lenses from like scratching around on surfaces. And Apple talked a lot about their new ceramic shield so that the screen should be scratched much less easily. I'm not going to take that chance. The best part about putting a screen protector on your phone is like 6 months later when, maybe you crack the screen protector and you take it off and you have a completely fresh screen underneath. So I've never used dbrands before, but this applicator looks awesome. And by the way, I have screwed up screen applications before, so let's see just how idiot-proof this actually is. Damn, that alignment is good. Let's just say you are a clumsy person and you drop your phone or your AirPods more often than you'd like. Well, then I might recommend to you the tank case. This new design is just everything you need in terms of protection. Like, if this can't keep your phone safe, nothing can. I've got a URL and a coupon code to get 42% off your Prism screen protector when you either order the ultra rugged tank or the Featherlight ghost case. Whatever you need, dbrand's got you covered. And on a personal note, dbrand is just awesome to work with. Like, really cool company. I like them. Click the link, use the code. They're great. On the other side, I've got widgets, generally not that interesting, whether this is for heavy, this is pedometer plus plus for my daily steps, and flighty. I love flighty, I just gotta get it in here. This is for anybody that travels, like it's a must have. And the other most interesting one is macro factor, which is for food tracking. I didn't use it today, so my numbers are all 0 because it's sometimes hard to keep up with. But when I do, I find it incredibly useful. I also find it the best for weight tracking because it will average things out like over month periods of time, tell you how much you're going up and down. So if you've ever used something like MyFitnessPal, this is the premium version. Like, it's a paid subscription, but it works so much better interface. And I find that if you do have goals tracking either your calories or your nutrients, it's not about doing it all the time that is most important, because that's very difficult, but doing it once in a while to sort of check in where you're at and have some understanding of what the food that you're eating on a daily basis actually has inside of it. So I found macro factor really helpful. And now let's get into the folder of fun. This is for photo and video production. I consider all 6 of these to be essential in one way or another. We all know Adobe Lightroom, and I still find it to be the best way to edit RAW files on your phone. I'm a big fan of shooting RAW, especially with the phone. There's so much you can change about it. And by the way, sometimes people ask, my presets, they do work on mobile. So here's an example of one of them. You can load them either onto the desktop or your phone. It works everywhere. For quicker turnaround colors, I still use VSCO. I have been forever. I generally just find that they have the best presets. Like, they all kind of make sense, look pretty natural. You can dial them back, which I usually do. VSCO is a classic. And next is CapCut, which it is the best mobile editor. I've tried to use others because the subscription is so expensive for it, but it just kind of works the best, so I keep coming back to it. But that's what I'm up for recommendation. What do you guys use to edit vertical videos? because I don't love paying for another subscription. So tell me what you think. And the next row are professional cameras. So halide is the best way to precisely control your images if you need to set the exposure or a variety of settings. Without any of the iPhone's automatic features kicking in, this is the place to do it. I love these guys. They know how to design an app really well. And then we've got Final Cut Camera. This is Apple's professional video solution. So I like that it's first party. It means it's endorsed by Apple, so features are always going to arrive here pretty quickly. But even more often, I actually use Blackmagic Camera. This is just like an essential app to me. I install it right away on every phone, and this is how we've done a lot of our production work with the iPhone over the last few years. Blackmagic Camera has seen a lot of action. Now, looking at it, it might seem a little complicated. There's a lot going on here, tons of settings. You can shoot in Apple Pro RAW, you can shoot in all of these different codecs. I've talked about how I set this up, but it's not straightforward. You have to kind of know what you're doing to get into Blackmagic Camera. So it's essential when you want to take that next step, but it's not essential to get great video out of your camera. I'll show you another option for that. If we swipe one more screen over, we can launch Kino. This is from the designers and developers of halide, and it is their video-focused app. Kino is great if you have no video expertise and don't want to learn, because you don't have to do very much. Up here on the top right, you just need to change the settings to custom. Make sure you're shooting in log and HEVC, then click apply. And in the bottom right here, you've got a bunch of different LUTs that can be applied. And this is being applied to that log footage, which makes it look like a movie. Stalman 03, I think, is the best of them, and you just click done. And then you just turn on instant grade up here at the top, so it will save those cinematic colors into the video and you don't have to do any work later. By the way, if you're shooting like this with Kino and want to match other footage to it, this exact LUT, Stalman Film 03, is available in my LUT pack, and the link is in the description below. The other one of these I use the most often is Unfold, which allows you to do layouts for things like Instagram stories, just quick ways to combine images, make it look like film, whatever. I use this all the time for stories. Now these others, well, Preview, this is a new free app, so it's just included by Apple. And I'm going to start using this to scan all my documents because it is built right in. Great way to do it. Apple does a good job of that. And all these others are fun cameras. Let's start with Mood Camera, which kind of gives you an instant camera look. Lots of interesting colors baked into it. I don't love this one the most. I find it kind of overbakes the colors, but a lot of people that follow me do love it. So I keep hearing your feedback about how great it is, so I'm just passing along the recommendation. Then VSCO has launched their own camera, so you can get all of the same looks from the VSCO app while you're shooting, preview it live. I think they do a very good job of this. It's like a little more professional with built-in colors, quick way to feel a little more inspired as you're shooting. And then we've got Not Boring Camera, which is a very accurate name because it basically turns your phone camera into a bit of a toy. A lot of the fun of it you kind of experience in real life. So the audio design is great. And there's also haptics going on while you manipulate everything. So if you just kind of want to play around and just enjoy your camera in a different way, definitely check out Not Boring Camera. If you've heard that the iPhone now supports OpenGate, but you don't want to shoot ProRes RAW, which those files are huge, so most people probably don't, try out OpenCam, which lets you shoot in that OpenGate format, meaning it is the whole sensor. It's not cropped to 16:9. You can see guides as you're shooting to get a sense of what it's going to look like, but afterwards in post, you can crop into a standard 16:9. But you have the flexibility so that you could use the video for a vertical or horizontal shoot, so it can go to social media, to YouTube, whatever you need. And importantly, you don't need to shoot in ProRes RAW to do it. And this last one is Project Indigo from Adobe. Unfortunately, it doesn't support the 17 at this moment that I'm recording. Hopefully by the time you're watching this, it does. And now I promised we'd talk about some of the essential settings you should change, so let's dig into it. First of all, you should have already decided what you're going to do with your action button. I use it as a shortcut to launch Blackmagic Camera, sometimes Final Cut Camera, whichever pro camera I'm using at the time. I just want to be able to quickly start shooting log video without thinking too hard about it. I've actually found the action button very useful over the years. And then what I'll do is I'll assign the camera control button over here to just launch the regular camera. Because then when I'm working, I can either switch between video and photo by pressing Blackmagic and then pressing camera control, or I can switch between like casual vertical video by using this button, and this button gets me high quality horizontal. There's lots of ways that I switch back and forth, but I find having both of them on different cameras really useful. But while we're in the camera settings, I definitely go into camera control and turn off camera adjustments. If you don't remember, that's when you like lightly press this side button and you get things like zooming in and out. I find everything just happens accidentally when I have that on, so I immediately turn it off. I talked a lot about photographic styles last year. Just real quick, I still prefer amber over anything else, and it's really easy to customize this. All you need to do is turn the tone down about halfway and turn the color up about halfway, and then you're going to have this warmer and slightly more contrasty, more natural tonal profile that is more like a regular camera. It just takes away some of that tone mapping that the phone usually applies. Next, go into record video, and immediately, first thing when I get a new phone, turn off HDR video. If you're some HDR mega fan, go ahead and use it. Like, it's up to you, but I think normal people will just get thrown off using HDR, especially for production. Way more confusing. I think it looks bad on social media. I always keep this off. Next, one of my favorite tips, so underrated. I'm gonna talk about this every time I talk about the phone. We're gonna go into formats. Then in ProRAW formats, we want to turn this to JPEG XL Lossy. Now, if you're talking to a camera nerd that spends more time reading about photography than taking photos, they might tell you like, okay, Lossy will lose more detail, you're throwing some away. Any of these options are all lossless files. But if you go with JPEG XL Lossy, it will be almost an eighth of the size. Like you can shoot, 8 times as many photos without losing any quality. And I mean it, like I've tested this in terms of banding and color reproduction and sharpness. Nothing gets worse, so don't waste your space on JPEG lossless. JPEG XL is what can get people into shooting RAW more often because it just takes up so much less space on your phone. And this next tip isn't about photography, it's about a really stupid change they made to Safari. So we're gonna search for Safari, open it up. And here, if we go over, you'll notice they really redesigned the bottom bar here. It's super minimal now. I just find it not that useful. I can use a little bit more Chrome and design around my web browser. So if we go back to settings, inside of Safari, change tabs to bottom. And now when we return, we're gonna get a much more traditional looking bottom tab bar. Of course, play with compact if you want. I kind of like trying to use the defaults as often as possible. So only change it if you're finding it frustrating to use the other. When you get used to non-defaults, then you're kind of using a very customized phone. And if you pick someone else's phone up, it'll be harder to get used to it. So I like to try to only change as little as possible. So that's what's on my iPhone 17 Pro. But if you want to know how to set everything up, I have videos with way more detail about all the settings that you need to change to get the most image quality out of your photos and videos. So I'll see you guys in the next video.